Hey everyone, and welcome to the Sewing with Shelby YouTube channel. And this week we are going to be discussing kit number 2 in the do-it-yourself kits, specifically for beginners. And this week we are doing scrunchies. So let's get started. Each scrunchie kit will come with one piece of pre-cut fabric and one piece of pre-cut elastic. Our first step is to take our fabric and turn it right side up, and then line up our small ends. We'll take this to the machine, back stitch at the beginning and the end, and sew down the length of it at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Once we have our fabric sewn on the short end, what we will do is open our fabric up and turn it into a tube. Then we will center our seam face up. Now, lift up this bottom edge and put it halfway in the center. Then fold down the top edge. Make sure that is in the center. You'll then take your bottom edge and fold it to the top. More or less, we have made a tube. Once we have our tube, we're going to take it to the sewing machine, and we're going to begin stitching down this edge at a 1/4 inch seam allowance, back stitching at the beginning and the end. Now, it's very important that you make sure the inside of your fabric is always pushed over to the inside on the left hand side of this tube, because you need to be able to sew straight down this seam, and it needs to be flat the entire time. If you notice that it is folded or not lining up, you'll need to stop sewing and push everything back to the left. I'm going to go ahead and stop right here and open up the tube. You will see the inside. This fabric is turned a different direction. You hold very loosely the outside tubing and begin pulling. It will all start to come out. And this is going to give you more room to sew. I'll open this up and push the tubing to the left, then close it back, making sure I match up my seams or my raw edges. Now I'm going to stop right here and do the same thing by opening up the tube, grabbing this fabric, holding this loosely, and pulling. Push everything inside to the left. Match up our raw edges on the right. Now, eventually you will come to a part where it will be a little bit difficult to fold down at the bottom. That's okay. That means that we're getting closer to our starting point. Okay, right here, you can see where the fabric has been sewn together, and we've started pulling the inside of the tube, and it's on the outside now. That's fine. You can take this and push it back to the inside. Sometimes I leave it hanging out. Now I'm going to stop right here because I can see my beginning stitches, and I need to be able to turn this whole tube right side out. So I'm going to go ahead and do my back stitches. Okay, now that we're all done at our sewing machine, we're going to bring our tube and open up the gap that's on the inside. We will reach in, hook our fabric, and gently pull it. And there we have it. Our tube is turned right side out. Our next step is to put our elastic on the inside. You can use a safety pin and attach it to the end and feed it all the way through your tube, but I like to use a bodkin. Originally, whenever I bought this, it was to make scrunchies, but I learned there are so many more uses for it. I successfully put all of the strings back inside the hoodies and sweatpants in my whole house using my bodkin. Okay, so we'll find our opening and begin to feed our bodkin through. Now I'm going to make sure I have the ends of my elastic at all time. And I'm just pushing the bodkin through and then pulling down the extra fabric. I found the end of my bodkin. Now I'm going to pull it out while holding the tube. And I still have the extra end of it right here in my hand. Now that I have it, I'll remove the bodkin, piece my two elastic ends together, and go to the sewing machine and stitch these down several times. Stitch, back stitch, stitch again. Now this is an important step in the scrunchie kit because if you do not tack this down well enough, your scrunchie won't hold your hair. I've gone forward, now back, forward, back. And that's it. Now that you have sewn the elastic in your scrunchie, we'll just shove it on the inside. And our next step is to sew up the hole that we've left behind. So what we will do is finger press this seam and then sew as close to the edge as possible. I can see right here where this thread is that is the end or the beginning of the stitch on the inside of my scrunchie, so that's going to be my stopping point. Okay, I've made it to my stopping point. Now let's go trim off our extra thread. And I'm just going to use my small embroidery scissors for this. Okay, there we have it. Now we're just going to fluff it out.
And there you have it. You've sewn your very first scrunchie. In the description below, I will provide a link for the best beginner sewing machines and also the link to the bodkin so you can make these for anyone in your life that needs it. Don't forget to check out the Etsy page so you can see the rest of the do-it-yourself kits that we have available, and also follow along on TikTok so you can see the new drops.